Hey Frag fam, Corbin here again from Northwest Scent. Today I want to talk about 5 unpopular fragrances that I personally enjoy. Underrated, overlooked, however you want to say it. These are fragrances that from each house are just kind of on the lower end of popularity. You don't see these show up in the Facebook fragrance groups very often. And in general, they're just kind of viewed as lesser fragrances from each house. But in my opinion, these are some of the better options from each house, and that's why I want to talk to you guys about them. So if that sounds interesting, please stay tuned. But first, let's roll that intro. All right, welcome back. So we got a nice combination of fragrances on this list. We have some niche, we have some designers, there's even a cheapie on this list, and they also cover anything from fresh scents all the way to wintry, cold weather scents. So there's a little bit of everything, but what these all have in common is they're all very underrated, and I actually think they're some of the best offerings from the house. Definitely in that top like third to quarter of the fragrances that I've tried from each of these houses. So all are very solid in my opinion. So starting it right off at the number 5 spot, it's from Nautica, and it is Voyage N83. Now, I actually bought this one by accident. This is like a year or so ago. I thought I was getting the original Voyage, and I just completely mistook the label as the original, and I accidentally picked this one up and ended up actually preferring this to the original. What they've done is they've removed the green apple and then the green leaf note from the top of the original, and then they've replaced it with C notes, petitgrain, and then mint. So this one, it's very aquatic. You get a little bit of sweetness because there's some cardamom in the mid. There's not really any spiciness, it's just a tad sweet. But the mint and the petitgrain make this really soapy and just very refreshing, a little bit green at the top. I actually get decent longevity with this too, especially for being like a $20 fragrance. Just like the original Voyage, it's kind of known for being a better performing, summery, cheap scent. This one's the same way. I usually get about 6 to 7 hours, which is really, really good for the genre of fragrance this is in. And in general, I just prefer the scent on this one. The green apple in the original gives me this kind of weird, almost like metallic kind of vibe. It's really hard to describe, but that's not present in this one. This one just comes across a tad sweeter, a lot more refreshing, and then just a little bit greener and a little bit soapy. So I really enjoy it overall. I think it's a fantastic summer fragrance. This is actually one of the few fragrances that have actually earned me an unsolicited compliment. I was at the grocery store last summer, and the checkout lady actually smelled me when I was walking up to the check stand. So, I mean, this stuff definitely can pull compliments, and at 20 bucks, you cannot beat that. So again, at the number 5 spot, that was Nautica Voyage N83. The fragrance at the number 4 spot is from a fairly unpopular house. They get some hype in the community, but they're just kind of known for being bombacious and just kind of unique and weird with their fragrances. And honestly, even as far as the standards of this house, this fragrance doesn't sell as much. It's from Comme des Garcons, and it's called Man 2. And honestly, this is it's one of my favorite offerings from this house, absolutely. Right off the top, you get a blast of aldehydes, nutmeg, and kumquat. So it comes across very fresh, a little bit spicy, and then you get some sweetness from that kumquat. And it's not a very bitter sweetness, you know, it's like a very nice, rich, orangey smell. And then as this thing starts to dry down, you get some incense and mahogany. This house is kind of known for just basically all the fragrances have like a cedar or some kind of woody accord, and it's a very prominent and natural smelling woody accord. In this case, it comes across a little more tamer, not quite as sharp as cedar, and then you get a little bit of smokiness from the incense. This fragrance also gives off a very mellow barbershop kind of feel. There's no lavender or oak moss in here, but it's just the way the ingredients blend together. You get a little bit of a barbershop kind of fragrance feel or DNA in this fragrance. But in general, it's very masculine. Most of the fragrances from this house are unisex, but this is one of the few fragrances that they've tailored towards men. And I think it's a really unique scent, and it's quite appealing. My girlfriend loves this stuff. I love it. The only issue is performance. I usually only get about 6 hours, which for a fragrance that is $110, you definitely would hope for better. But as far as the scent goes and the quality of the smell, it's extremely natural smelling, extremely unique, and extremely pleasant. So I absolutely recommend this stuff for you guys to check out. And again, that was Comme des Garcons Man 2. The fragrance at the number 3 spot comes from arguably the most popular niche house currently. As far as the community is concerned, this is a lower tier fragrance from this house. However, for me, I have tried about 20 different fragrances from this brand, and this is in my top 4, absolutely, possibly even my top 3. It's from the House of Creed, and it's called Himalaya. So this one I like to call the neglected twin brother to Silver Mountain Water. They're very similar fragrances. They're very refreshing, a little bit fruity, a little bit inky and woody, but they're just kind of going in slightly different directions. I absolutely prefer this to Silver Mountain Water, and actually I didn't really enjoy Silver Mountain Water. I had it for a while, I tried to like it, but I ended up selling it. It just gave me this really weird inky vibe, a little bit metallic. It just didn't work on my skin, but this stuff removes that and then just amps up the freshness even more. You don't have the tea note in here, but you have a lot of citruses at the top. There's some sandalwood, just makes it a very light woodiness and a little bit creamy and soapy. And then you get musk and cedar in the base that just makes it very woody and refreshing. This is a very clean fragrance. This is what I would call like a $100 shower gel. If there was a shower gel out there that they sold for $100 with like really high quality ingredients, it would smell something like this. It's not very sweet, but it's just very citrusy, woody, and refreshing. Extremely clean. This gives off as clean of a vibe as something like Dior Homme Cologne, where you basically aren't gonna offend anybody wearing this. It's just gonna make you feel like you just hopped out of the shower, and this is perfect for the summer. I definitely reach for this in the high heat because it definitely cools you off. So again, at the number 3 spot, it's one of my favorites from the House of Creed, and it's called Himalaya. The fragrance at the number 2 spot comes from the Armani Code line. It's their summer rendition of the original, and it's called Colonia. Man, yeah, I love this stuff a lot. So you can basically imagine this as if you take the original and then remove the star anise from the mid and replace it with clary sage, and then take out the leather from the base and replace that with amberwood, you would get something like this. This still has the tonka bean, it still has the citruses at the top, it still has a couple of spices, but in general, this is just simply put a freshened up version of the original. This works in the winter still because of the tonka bean. This one is still very sweet, but it's also very fresh as well, which is why of course it works in the summer. And then I think this is perfect for the transition seasons. So at least to me, this is the most versatile flanker in the line. I think they did an amazing job at taking what was a very dark, syrupy, sweet, and like winter oriented fragrance line, and they were able to make a summer flanker out of it, and it works really well. This one, I'm back and forth between this and Absolute as my favorite, but this is absolutely in my top 2 currently, and I just love this stuff. I wore it a lot last summer and it worked amazing. I get decent performance out of it, about 7 hours, so it's nothing crazy, but it's okay for a fresh fragrance. But I think overall this is an amazing fragrance. It's definitely worth checking out. So again, that was Armani Code Colonia. The fragrance at the number 1 spot was recently discontinued, at least the second half of last year. I talked about it actually in my top 5 recently discontinued fragrances you should purchase now video, which I will link right here. I think it's probably for me my second favorite flanker in its line, and it's absolutely worth picking up now before the prices get up to like $150, $200, which I think they definitely will. It's from Mugler, and it's called Pure Tonka. And I think the prices are gonna shoot up like that just because of Ultra Zest. You know, that thing fetches $200 now pretty easily, and I could easily see this being a flanker of that one hitting those prices as well. But as far as this fragrance goes, this is like a gourmand lover's dream. You have tonka bean, coffee, cacao, vanilla, and patchouli as some of the main notes, which all of those give off very edible vibes. I know patchouli is not technically edible, but it gives off a chocolatey nuance, and it's kind of the gold standard as far as this line goes. But this thing just smells extremely sweet and edible. You could kind of imagine yourself in like a coffee shop with like a mocha, you know, chocolatey, just a little bit bitter and sweet. This thing smells absolutely amazing. I get beast mode performance from this thing too. And the unique thing about this one is the dry down kind of retains the DNA of the opening, whereas some other Amen flankers generally dry down to the original DNA, or at least most of the way to that. This one's pretty unique and its own thing the whole way through. And I just think it's a fantastic fragrance. It's perfect for this time of year, and I'm super glad I have a bottle of this stuff. It's a treat for me when I get to wear this because I smell like a treat when I wear it. So again, at the #1 spot, that was from Mugler, and it's called Pure Tonka. Well, there you go. Those are my top 5 unpopular fragrances that I personally enjoy. I'm not hyping these up by any means. All of these make it into my fragrance rotation quite a bit. There's some fragrances that I have yet to even touch just because I have so many. It's hard to get through all of them, but these I've reached for multiple times, and I will continue to reach for multiple times. They definitely get my stamp of approval. So if you guys enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate dropping a like just to show your support. And then while you're down there, maybe write a comment and let me know your thoughts and maybe some new video ideas. And then while you're at it, if you guys subscribed and hit the bell notification, that would be great, just so you stay up to date on new videos whenever they get released going forward. But with all that out of the way, that's all I have for you guys today. So I hope you have a good one, stay healthy, stay wealthy, and smell great.